Wait, what? This is wait a second. This is just a routine draw. But let's take a look at this game. So e4 is played. So Jobava plays c6, d4, d5, pretty standard. Okay, and see, this is Alireza plays e5, and this it's ironic that that like literally what I said before ends up being true, which is when we looked at the first two Alireza games, I was saying, why was nobody trying to play aggressively against the Hikaru, trying to beat him? They were playing this very dry knight c3, knight f3 line rather than going into the most testing lines. Now you see Alireza with white. He does not play knight c3, knight f3. He plays one of the more aggressive lines. He plays one of the more aggressive lines with knight f3 and bishop e2 here. So very good stuff from Alireza. And again, sort of not to say I told you so, but I told you guys so that I do understand something about chess. Castles h6 is played here. Knight bd2, knight d7, knight b3 is played. Pretty standard. Bishop h7, a4. I myself have had this many times. I had against Samuel Shanklin a game or two. Had this as black against Peter Saviller a few times. Black normally plays for c5 or f6. Additionally, black can also go g5. I also won this game. I think I won a game against Maxime in France in 2008, where he also played this weird knight b3, a4. So a6, bishop d2. Actually, a6 is also not. The order of this is wrong. I don't think you're supposed to play a6 here. And again, this of course is pretty. This is pretty dank too. I'm gonna add in that this is a pawn structure issue. So Levy said the same a6 isn't a move. Well, it's not actually specifically the a6 isn't a move. You can play a6, but as I recall, when I remember this pawn structure from the past, and what I'm saying is pretty advanced anyway. Against a4 in this Hikaru, either you're supposed to play a5 and fix the structure, where like against bishop d2 you can play b6 and just play like this, or if you're not playing a5, you wait for white to go a5 before going a6. Actually, you don't even need it though. Basically, I think the two ideas are either you play a5 or you play c5 here. I think a6 is just not the right. It feels wrong. I can't really explain it, but it doesn't feel right to me. So a6 is played here. Yeah, a6 bishop e2. I don't remember Hikaru theory. This is not about theory, you guys. This is about pawn structures and trying to remember in which situation do you play a6, a5. And also the other thing is the only real reason to playing a6 here is to play c5. So let me give you an example. Let me go back to different opening. I'm just going to put up a French position randomly here so you guys see a completely different idea. So there's a French position here. There's a French position here where basically if black plays c5, you can always go knight b5 and the knight gets into c7 or d6 here. So black has to play a6 to stop white from getting a knight, and then after knight f3 you go c5 because there's no longer knight b5. In this position, normally there's no knight coming to b5 and d6 here because this is a French structure traditionally. So there's no knight coming to b5. Normally you can try to play for c5 right away. You do have to worry about something like a bishop b5 move, which is one of the reasons a6 sometimes makes sense. But I feel like by playing a6 you're choreographing the intention to play c5 a little bit too finely. And I think white's going to be able to play for like c4. I mean, there's bishop d2 and c4. There's also, I think, just bishop e3 and c4, or bishop e3, knight e1, knight d3 also to cover c5. So this doesn't look right at all. So bishop d2 is played, queen c7, rook c1, exactly. Now a6 makes no sense because now you can't play for c5, so you just wasted a tempo on a pawn push, and it makes no sense whatsoever. Rook d8, bishop a5, bishop b4. Nice touch, bishop d6. Yet again, another justification to why a6 was a bad move, because if the pawn is on a7, let me just set it up here. Say you reach a position like this, for example, after bishop a5 b6, the bishop goes back to d2. There's no pawn under attack, so I can just go c5 here with the pawns on a7, b6, and c5. So basically by playing a6, this is why at the top level chess is much different. This little move is basically the reason Jobava loses the game. This innocent looking a6 move is this wrong move order, wrong setup is the reason he loses the game. Rook c1, bishop a5, and now of course, yeah, now the pawn's under attack. And if you go c5 here as well, now I can just take and go bishop a5, and you have problems on this diagonal too. So a5, queen b7, knight c8, trade, knight e1. Actually, the computer says what, again, like, not to hammer home the point, but you'll see the computer says that white's much better here. Although the move that I like is c4. I'm kind of surprised he didn't play this. Computer says queen e3 is good. I don't really understand that as a human. That makes no sense. But apparently knight e1 gives back the entire advantage. So we keep going. Knight f4, castles, rook e1, rook c8 here, c3, rook c7, g4. Wait a second. Let me go back a second. I'm just trying to look at this as a serious player, trying to understand why exactly this was so bad. So computer says queen e, so c4 makes sense as a human. So if takes, take with the bishop, black moves the knight. Probably knight e7 makes sense anyway. Just guard the pawn, and then you still have time to move the knight out. h3, knight d7. And why is this so good for white? I don't actually agree with the computer. It says white's better here, but I don't really understand why it's better, and I don't think for a human it makes a lot of sense. So knight e1 is played, knight d3, knight d7. And now you're seeing where humans don't understand certain things. Like, I just don't understand it, and honestly, I think if you ask Magnus or anybody else, they would say the same thing. It doesn't make sense why white should be better there. The rook e1, rook c8, c3, rook c7, g4, queen b8. Apparently this isn't best, although again, one of the big drawbacks, as I said before, is look at this pawn structure on the queen side. Black would love to go c5, and here you can kind of do it, but just to illustrate the point, there always are problems where your a5 pawn will be weak, so that also kind of makes it hard to play c5 in this position. So queen b8, queen e3 is played, queen d8, h3, logical move, just wants to improve the kingside pawns here. King h1, rook g1's an idea, mainly just taking space. Also, knight can't go to f5, pawn prevents it. King h8, knight d2, c5, bishop b5, very human move. Knight c6, king h2, and I'm guessing that at some point, just open the line. I have the lines open, but just because I have the lines open doesn't mean that doesn't mean that I can understand what the computer says. But this is already really bad for black, mainly because black can't push the pawn and break with f6, because then e6 is super weak, and white's probably going to have time to go knight f3, rook g1, g5, and just crash through on the king side is my guess here. Trade, knight b4, trade, queen c3, very nice move here. Black cannot trade because then you will lose one of your two knights, although maybe you can go knight c2, but still should be bad. So he goes rook c8, rook c1, bishop c2, queen g3. Yeah, and kind of what I said exactly happens, where basically this whole king side starts to fall apart. White's able to crash through. All the knights are coming in here. You also have rook g1, and black meanwhile has this knight and bishop that are basically on the wrong side of the board here, and everything is collapsing here almost instantly. Takes, knight f3, exactly, to go knight g5. These knights are incredible here. They guard all the critical squares, and white is just breaking through very, very fast. G6, rook g1. Wait, rook g1's apparently the wrong move. Apparently queen h6 and queen h4 is just winning on the spot because you have knight h5. Aha, you have knight h5, which is coming in here. So say like black goes, I don't know, like queen g7. I think after rook g1 and knight h5, this looks very, very bad for black. So he goes rook g1 though, which is interesting. Knight c6, queen h6, queen f8, queen h4. Now knight h5 comes in, queen h6, rook g4, and basically black's getting checkmated here. You have knight f6 trades, rook h4, h7, and knight g5. Very nice. Can Levy beat Firoujza? I'm not gonna broach that topic, you guys, but we know the answer to that question. Okay, I know you're trying to bait me into something. So king f8 is played. Of course, if black was like rook d8 here, very beautiful win here. Knight f6, king g7, trade, rook h4, rook h7, knight g5, and again, beautiful position. Knights cover the critical squares. It's just GG here for black. So king f8 is played instead. Queen f6, nice move. If black takes on h5, I think just rook h4 would checkmate in the corner here. Next move, very, very nice. Knight d8, rook h4, knight g5. I mean, I don't even know if knight g5 is necessary. I think knight f4 wins too, but everything wins here. Knight g5, bishop d1. It takes. Nice finish here. Rook d8, knight f6, rook h6, knight f7. Knight d8, and white is two knights against one bishop, and is completely winning. Very, very, very nice. Very, very nice position. Nice game by Alireza. Jobava definitely, I don't know if he didn't feel the risk or what was going on, but he didn't sense the danger. Probably, I think somewhere, I want to say somewhere around here. somewhere around here. There should have been a better way to play it, but I think that in general, if you're not a computer, it's just very hard to play because white has a very obvious idea of like knight f3 g5 or king h2 rook g1. You're also really not doing anything on the queen side here. It's a very stable structure, and one thing that I would say, whether it's the French or Caro Khan, is whenever you get like this chain f7 to d5 and b2 to e5, as a black player, you always need to try and play f6 and chop the center, and here you can't do that because if you ever go f6, the knight is perfectly placed to jump to e6. So because of that, I mean, a computer obviously would probably win this against a human. That's how good they are. But as humans, I think it's just very, very unpleasant. And I think I mean, I think most people would lose. I think actually I would probably lose in this position too with black. Just that unpleasant, very hard to come up with an idea. Just not a good position. Not a good position. I mean, really, it all went downhill out of the opening. This a6 move, was the start of everything going wrong. Yeah, no, I would lose this with both colors to a computer. That's what I would say. But yeah, like, it's just this knight on f4 is just so well placed to stop the pawn break in the center, which you always need in the Caro Khan, and you need in the French as well. So very, very nice game by Alireza. Do I intend to play a classical tournament in the future? I intend to play the Grand Prix in February. So again, you can read between the lines of what I'm saying, but I intend to play the Grand Prix in February. So okay, so let's go to the next game. This was against Alexander Grischuk. Now this was a game that I think he was in a little bit of trouble, or at least I saw a tweet about it somewhere in the middle of the game. I didn't see the game at all. So we have e4 e5 here. Oh, by the way, you'll notice here there's another thing that I would say as well. Which is you'll notice against Grischuk, Alireza does not play the Caro Khan. He plays e4 e5. So see, against the 2600s, he played c6 to try and play a Caro Khan, more double edge. But against Grischuk, he doesn't gamble, he doesn't mess around. Grischuk, obviously being a 2770 plus player, he plays absolutely as solid as can be. So okay, so we have knight f6, b5, bishop c5. We have the Archangel here, interesting choice. d4, bishop b6, bishop e3, knight e2, rook b8 is played here, h3, rook e8, rook e1. This was played a lot by I think Alexei Shirov in the Grand Swiss in Latvia was playing this. So bishop b7, knight g5, rook e7, d5, knight a7, a4. A slight edge for white, not a whole lot though. Very, very small edge. Maybe there's one weakness, slight weakness on b5. Maybe the pawn structure is not favorable. For example, white's bishop is better than black's bishop here, because even though this diagonal is closed by the pawn, white can always bring the bishop back to like c2 and d3. Black's bishop, it can go to c8, but it has no real squares on this diagonal. And if you ever go c6, for example, let me just make a random move. When the diagonal opens up, now the white bishop on b3 combined with the knight becomes extremely strong. So the white bishop is a little bit better than the black bishop here, and there's also a slight weakness on b5. So white should be very, very slightly better, but again, I don't think it's anything serious. c4, c6 is played, takes, and now of course the big difference here is that in this position, with all the pawns off the board, this bishop is nice on b3, but the rook is always keeping an eye on it. Whereas if we go back here, let's just say a move like this, for example, you'll notice the pawn's in the way. So the bishop is just very, very nicely tucked here on b3, just targeting f7. Pawn on b5 is nice, but the rook doesn't have an open shot at the bishop on b3 here. So c4 is played, c6 trade, bishop f7, queen b3 takes. Okay, what's going on? Queen d5 trade, and apparently this is a mistake. So after queen c3, king g8, rook e5, white is apparently quite a bit better here. Queen b7, knight c4, and this, you guys, I'm gonna add this as well, which is this is another thing that I'm gonna add, which is something that humans still do not understand relative to computers for the most part, which is that a rook is sometimes a lot better than the minor piece, the bishop and the knight. When you grow up playing when you grow up playing chess, once you get past a certain level, let's just say master level, very oftentimes you learn that a bishop and a knight are almost always better than a rook. And computers, I feel like computers for at least the last decade or so, they've understood that in many cases the rook is better than a bishop and a knight in a way that humans don't. Yeah, I know there are two pawns as well. Basically, I'm saying the imbalance of like a rook and a pawn, or the imbalance of rook and two pawns for a bishop and a knight, is something that computers understand in a way that humans still do not understand at all. So knight c4, knight, this would have been very good. Instead he trades into the end game again, probably because I'll tell you why he probably traded. He probably thought that because because Grischuk's not a computer and no human is, he probably thought that he is a rook and 2 pawns for a bishop and a knight, but he figures his pawn on b2 is a little bit weak, and if black can, like, say, get bishop e8, I'm just gonna make some random moves here. Black can get like a bishop on f7, the b2 pawn will eventually fall, and even if you have 3 versus 2 here, then it's going to be very hard with a rook and a pawn for the bishop and the knight to win the game. So probably he just assumed there wasn't enough and he would lose this pawn, which is why he didn't go for this. Instead he trades and does this. Why don't GMs just study computer games exclusively, learn from computers? Well, because computers would not make blunders like this. Again, I'm being somewhat non-serious when I say that, but like, if a computer was playing a computer, it would never blunder quote unquote blunder by allowing this bishop takes f7 queen b3 line. So, like, you know, for humans it's not a blunder, but again, for a computer would never get into a position that's this bad objectively. Like, this is like 0.7. When you look at computer versus computer games, you'll see very long end games with like closed structures, a lot of blockades, and it's just not the same thing. A computer would not blunder like this. That's the difference. So, like, yes, I mean, I can put the computer on this position after like queen c3. I can manually analyze this, but when computers play computers, they don't make blunders like this. The way that computers beat other computers is some like block structure, you maneuver for like 100 moves, some breakthrough, maneuver again for another 50 moves, another breakthrough, on and on and on and on and on forever. A computer would never blunder itself into a position this bad, quote unquote. So yeah, so like that's what I'm saying is, like, yes, you know, of course for humans this doesn't look like a blunder at all to me, but again, computers are that much better. So for computers, they would never make these sorts of blunders. Why don't we just put computers in our heads and not blunder? Thank you for that. Yes, thank you for that. I appreciate that's a good one. I mean, maybe when Starlink comes out, we'll see. Anyway, yeah. All right, so knight d7, rook d5, bishop c6, knight e5. Okay, all pretty standard. I mean, white's a little bit better here, but very hard to push this pawn. The knights guard each other and they keep an eye on the passed pawn, so very, very hard for white to progress. In fact, I'm not even sure white's winning anymore, because black can basically just wait here. Wait, so he goes king g8. Yeah, probably here white should play g4 to stop this knight f5 knight d4 idea. Again, very hard to win though. If black just kind of sits here and waits till like rook b5 just sits, the knights are perfectly placed. Very, very hard for white to do anything. But Grischuk plays g3, which is a blunder, because now after knight f5, black's able to force an endgame, which is a theoretical draw here. Knight d4 and rook b3, and I won't go through the rest of this game, but this is a draw. It's rook in 3 versus rook in 2. Classic draw here. No need to go through the rest of the game, but nice save from Alireza there. And the last game was the game that Alireza played against Hikaru and Mamedyarov. E4, e5, knight 3, knight 6. We get the Italian here. We got the Gucci piano. All pretty normal so far. Pretty normal. Okay, bishop e6. Trade. Knight b3. Yeah, I think bishop e6 is right. Knight b3. Bishop a7. Bishop e3. Actually, the reason I was looking to the sky there, is because this is actually a line that I've played a lot with black. Most people have probably seen this is the general setup that I play with h6, d6, and a5. So I was just thinking in my head about it. Obviously, I'm not going to say anything more than that, because again, I do still play chess, and I'm not going to say anything about these lines. The bishop e3 is played. Trade. Overall, it's relatively balanced. What is the point behind a5? The main point behind a5, there are a couple of reasons. First thing is you take away space. You take away the square. So for example, let's just say you play bishop e6. White can in many cases get b4 and maybe a4 and take a ton of space on this queen side here. Like, say, I know the moves, the exact moves don't matter here, but like, you get a position like this, white has much more space on the queen side, even here, than black does. So it's mainly a spatial issue. That's the reason that black plays a5, just to prevent b4 and take space on the queen side. That's the reason. Okay, so trade a4, d5. D5 is not right, by the way. I know d5 is not right based on my own understanding of this position, because you create a weakness on e5. The pawns here, I mean, the double pawns are not weak, but once you go d5, you're always gonna have to deal with weaknesses here. This is a fairly serious error. And actually, you see even the computer jumps to 0.5 as well. You got to go knight e7 or knight d7. Knight e7 g6 is reasonable, although that still allows this d4 break, and d5 e5 pawn structure not so clear. Knight d7 is also quite reasonable. Queen e8 is also a move. I mean, I'd probably consider all three of these moves before I would consider d5. I think d5 is a fairly serious mistake. Rook b1. Rook b1, which move? So rook e2 is played here. b5 is played. No, I mean, d5 maybe is okay. Computer has jumped, though. It says that white's a lot better now, because the problem is your e5 pawn is always weak, and at some point white's going to be able to take, and you can't undouble because you lose the pawn. You're gonna have to take with the queen, and then all these endgames with these weak pawns are very, very hard to play. e5 knight d5. Wait, so this is what happens, right? Yeah, so he does take, and now black can't take with the pawn and undouble. Take with the queen, there's still like knight e4 or queen c2. Like even this actually just looks this looks very unpleasant. I mean, knight h5, I think there's g3, right? G3, rook guards the knight, you have rook e1. Very, very bad position for black. Knight d5 is played. Hikaru hasn't played many turns in 2021, so he can't qualify based on rating for the Grand Prix. I am playing the Grand Prix. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay, I already explained. I already said something through the lines, but if you guys don't want to attempt to understand, so be it. So knight d5 is played here. a3. Okay, there's some rook b1 move here somewhere. Knight f4, rook e3. Queen e8 is played here. g3 is played. Knight takes h3, king g2. Knight g5 is played here. So trade. Queen g4 is played in this position. I mean, all I'm gonna say broadly in terms of that topic, without saying specifics, is that, you know, I sent some emails. There have been some emails and certain things, so that's what I'm gonna say. But I will be playing in the Grand Prix. Queen g4 is played here. Rook f5, knight f3. When I go knight f3 and knight e4 here, I also missed a couple things here. Black ended up winning a pawn, right? Black won a pawn here, but you look at his pawns, they're all pretty bad. Well, pretty bad maybe is the wrong way of putting it. These pawns are reasonably okay, but these pawns here in the center are not a lot. You have double pawns that are weak. G5 is weak here. Rook f5, knight f3, queen f7 is played, queen e4. f8, okay, logical move. Rook h1. Of course, black cannot play like rook f3. There would be a checkmate on h7, for example. And if you move the knight, then I can go g4, rook f4, queen h7 mate anyway. So it's a very hard position to play. Very, very ugly pawns here. Two sets of double stacks that are not really stable whatsoever. Very, very bad. g6 is played here. Queen c6, g4, of course. Black tries to use the legendary triple stack to break through on the f file. King g1, rook f3 takes, logical. If black takes with a pawn here, I think after queen b5, white's probably just winning. Rook is on a very nice open file here. All these pawns are super weak. I mean, black has 1, 2, 3 pawn islands. Very, very bad position. So instead he takes with the queen e6 block, rook h4. So what's the count? Even material, but black's gonna be down a pawn probably. So rook b7 here, rook c6, e2. Okay, so where's this rook b1 move? You said there was a rook b1 move. I don't see it. Takes, check here. Rook b3 takes. Wait, Mamedyarov lost this position. Wait a second, you guys. Wait, what? This is wait a second. This is just a routine draw. Wait, no, I mean, this is an easy draw. I mean, this is an easy draw. e4, rook a5, king f6. Wait a second. Let me think about this. Okay, so you go king g4. I'm trying to think about this. King g4, rook e5, rook b4. This is winning, right? Because you have king h3. This one is winning because, just to illustrate the point, takes f3 here. You have king h4, classic opposition. Black has to move and you win the game here, so this is winning. So you can't go king g4. I'm actually kind of wondering about e4. I think I drew this endgame against someone in was it a US championship? I don't remember. But I drew this against somebody in the US championship. Maybe it was Gata. I don't remember. Anyway, so e4, rook a5, king f6, king f1. Okay, all pretty normal. Rook b3. Rook b3 feels wrong. I wanted to say rook b2 makes more sense, so it's probably the same endgame anyway, but he goes here. Okay, king e2. Oh, and he gets his king cut off here, and he's able to rewalk the king back around, right? Wait a second. Okay, wait a second. Okay, so let me think about this for a second. So if you're able to wait that way, king e2 is always coming in here. Yeah, I mean, okay, so here. Actually, in this position, I guess it's the same thing, right? King f5 check. You still have to go to e5, so it's the exact same endgame. So okay, so what happens here? Check here, right? And this is where there's this crazy move, rook f3, which draws the game. I saw a tweet about this one move, and this is a very, very tough move to find here. I mean, again, with little time, you can't really be critical of the players. There was an identical position in 1908 in which Alipin found rook f3. Wow, so players in 1908 were better than modern day players. That's not surprising. I would bet you that I would bet you a big amount of money that that Magnus knew that game, or he knew the setup and he would have played rook f3. I would bet you a big amount of money there that that Magnus would have been able in his brain to recall some game and have found rook f3. Guaranteed. Alipin in 2008 is Alipin 2800. Yeah, I mean, again, that's actually a funny Alireza was shocked when the interview showed him this line. Well, I mean, one thing I would say is there are a lot of older chess players who are like in their 50s and 60s who have studied a lot of these end games, like just with books and just like looking at a lot of old games, and they've sometimes said that they think modern day players don't play the end games as well. There are a lot of people I know who have felt that, like Karpov, for example, is like a much better end game player than everybody except Magnus, and so that is something that is lost a little bit in modern day chess. Gary's end games were not always great. He lost a couple of very bad rook and pawn end games to Anatoly Karpov. So it's that maybe is the wrong example. I think that's the wrong example. But anyway, yeah. All right. So okay, so anyway, king d4 is played. Rook f3 is a draw, you guys. The reason it's a draw is after trade. If white tries to go this way, you can just wait with the king here, and white cannot progress. I just basically just wait forever. So you can't get out on you can't get out this way, because then I just meet your king this way. And if you go this way, I think I just go king e4. And now if you ever go g4, I go here. And this is, of course, just to be clear, the opposition, but white's move, so it's a draw. So after king e1, king e4, you go this way, I go this way. If you go g4, same problem basically, which is that I will get the opposition with it being white's move. So you can't really do that. And the only other option you have is to go king c2. But the problem is I can still wait with king c4, and you can't go g4 again because the king gets back just in time. Same thing. And I just get the opposition, and it's a draw. And if you try to go this way, I think king b4 is also still a draw, ironically enough. But if you go this way, I can now go in, and after g5 here, g6, I'm able to make a queen just in time, and this is also a draw. So you can't really do that. So basically, there's no way to progress. And if you go king d1, I can also go king d3 here, g4, king e4, because I'm inside the box from d3. So very straightforward if you see it. Anish tweeted that he didn't see this position until now. Well, I've said before, I've actually said I don't know if I would have found rook f3. I think there's a good chance I wouldn't have found rook f3 either, honestly. But yeah, I think what I would say is that I think what I would say, broadly speaking, is that you know, that's one of the things that separates Magnus from a lot of the other top players, is that his intuition in a lot of end games, whether it's intuition or recall ability or whatever you want to call it, he's able to find a lot of these ideas in a lot less time than everybody else. So that's what I would say. But I don't know if I would have found it. I think if I have time, maybe I find it, but if you don't know the concept, it's a very, very hard move to find. And Anish himself, apparently Anish tweeted that he didn't know it either. So I think that says a lot. Yeah, I understand the continuation immediately, but it's not obvious. Oh, I would have gone rook b2, not rook b3 anyways. That's true. Yeah, I would not have played rook b3 here. I would have gone rook b2. So that's a fair point as well. But yeah. If Anish would say there's no way you could, okay, David, thank you for that. Everybody's thought processes are different. So thank you for that. Appreciate it. But yeah, anyway, yeah, big yikes. But if he doesn't take on f3, why is it so special? Well, the problem is if you don't take on f3, you can't really improve. Let's say you go check here, I just go king f5, and the problem is that basically you can't cut the king. So when you go here, I just go back, and it's the same problem. I just go here, and when you go rook f4, I just wait forever. You can't push g4, and then when you go here, I go rook f3, and it's just a draw. So that's the reason. The problem is basically that right now black's issue is that the king is cut off here, and if white can get the king to h3, it's just an easy win. So that's why you have to do it, because what happens in the game is he goes here, and yeah, white's just winning because the rook always guards the pawn. So now you can just escort the g pawn up the board. It's a very easy win. Yeah, just g4 and king h4 and g5. I mean, king h4, you do the ziggy zaggy, and easy win. Wasn't king d4 obviously losing? Yes, king d4 actually is a very strange move by Mamedyarov, because the king is cut by 1 file, so it's probably losing. When you go here, now your king is cut by 2 files. Like it's cut by these 2 files here, so you're never going to be winning this pawn. So it is actually a very strange move, very strange move. But again, if you don't play rook f3, you lose anyway, so it's not really, it doesn't make a huge difference. Is it intuitive? Not if you haven't seen the endgame. If you've seen the endgame, I mean, like, if you've seen this endgame or some version of this endgame, you'll play rook f3 in like 5 seconds if you've seen some version of this. But if you don't know the line, and I think most people wouldn't know it, like I haven't, I mean, someone says an Alpin game that I don't know, Anish doesn't know it, obviously Mamedyarov didn't know it, Alireza clearly doesn't know it either, so nobody knows it. I mean, Magnus would be an interesting question. Magnus would be an interesting one, whether Magnus knew the game. But I guess at this point, if you ask him, he could answer any possible way. But yeah, I would just say that it's tough, very tough. Can I look at that game, Tekman versus Alpin in 1908 Prague? Possibly. Although I would say one thing is that broadly speaking, I do know that in the Russian school of chess, which is you know, like Botvinnik and all those guys, they were very big on studying these end games. So they were very big on studying end games. So I wouldn't be shocked if, like, in the Russian school they learned these end games. Rook f3 makes sense. No, it doesn't make sense, because you trade into a king and pawn endgame where you should be losing, except you aren't losing. That's what I would say. So anyway, anyway, he doesn't fight. He goes king d4, and now the rest is pretty straightforward. Actually, after g4, he just resigns, because when you check, and I go here and here, I mean, rook f5 is one way, but even just the ziggy zaggy wins here, because check here, check here, check. The zigzag, make the snake, and then go g5, push the pawn at g7, win the game. For example, there are a couple things. First of all, there's the classic one, which is just this one. I think everybody's familiar with this. This is the Lucena position. You go here, check, here, g7 here, and you build the bridge with rook e4, and you zigzag back and win the game. For example, say black goes here, king f7, threaten the queen, check here, threaten the queen, check here. If black can kind of wait here with rook g2, for example, but then you push the rook up and build another bridge on g5, and if black checks, you go here, check, and then you block with the rook, and you make a queen next move. This, of course, has been known since the 1600s, so this is very classic theory. Almost everybody, I would say probably at about like 1900 level, you learn this end game, and pretty simple. If you shift all the pieces 1 file left, if it's an f pawn, it wins. If the pawn is on the h file, it's not a win, but with the pawn on the g or the f file, it's a win. So yeah, so that's why after I believe it's g4 here, in this position, or king g3, whatever the exact order was, Mamedyarov resigns, and Alireza wins the game and moves to 2803, I believe, on the official list. He gained something insane like 25 points. Very impressive result, and good event for him. Absolutely very good.